It's an interview, not a social engagement. We're all full of it, absolutely full of it. Why do you think when you go into an interview, you get nervous as hell? It's because you're scared you're going to be found out. And I don't mean that you're going to be caught out as a liar, because most of us have some integrity. We all tidy up our lives. Sometimes we'll embellish a little bit on our accomplishments, or sometimes we'll just gloss over the details. We'll say something like we were part of a award-winning team that produced magnificent results in the market. Leave out the piece that we made the coffee. Come on, you know it. You know CVs aren't really worth the paper they're written on. They tell you a little bit. They're like a filter. You've got 500 applications. Who are the 3 or 4 we're going to interview? That's about all they're good for. And even then, you'll get a few interviews where you go, oh my God. Just in case you're in any doubt about the quality of CVs, let me tell you a story. I had a business in London a number of years ago, and I was always looking for good staff, always taking on CVs, and I needed a particular type of very high level staff. Well, I got a CV across my desk one day that looked perfect. Looked absolutely amazing, actually. It was so close to my own CV. Well, actually, it was sort of very similar to my own CV. In fact, if you change my name at the top, hiring is critical. Don't miss it. Don't be eluded. It's not a casual chat. This is the crux, the moment in time. If I said to you, you had 1 hour to prepare for the next year of your life, and that hour was going to be critical on everything that happened in the next year of your life, you had to pay attention, right? When I was a new cop, I was amazed how the old salts with decades of experience just seemed to be able to get the facts. They seemed to know when they weren't getting the right story, when it didn't quite line up, when things weren't quite correct, and they had a way to drill down and find out exactly what it was. Wow, could I use those skills, not only in that job, but later in life? And I'll let you into the secret. We're social creatures. It's how we've survived. It's how we've thrived. It's how we've become what we are. But that brings with it some baggage and some behavioural patterns that we just take for granted and we ignore them, which means we don't understand how they influence us. We naturally have an ability to want to believe. Now, what we do in an interview is we sit there and we listen to a story, and if our brain goes, that doesn't sort of ring true, we don't challenge it. We just go, yeah, lower the trust level, lower the trust level, lower the trust level, and eventually a person doesn't get a job. The second is a need to be polite. It's part of forming a community again. We try to resist the urge to be rude, which is why the title of this video is, it's an interview. It's not a social engagement. It's not a chat. The rules are slightly different, and you get to set the rules before you even start the interview. The result is that we both, the interviewer and the interviewee, often have quite a mundane experience in the interview. And those interviews go nowhere. So how do we change? How do we become better interviewers and find out the information we need? Well, the first one is to listen to that little voice inside your head that goes, that doesn't make sense. Dial into it. We all know what it is. We all hear it. We all experience it. We all know when it gets to a certain volume, we'll pay attention to it. Start paying attention a little bit earlier. Ignore that voice inside your head that says, it'd be a bit rude to question him on that. Don't do that. The next one is learn a technique called precision questioning. When your little alarm bell goes off and goes, well, that doesn't quite make sense. Something's not quite right about it. I feel a little, it's not right. Comfort zone's not. Precision question, go down a bit further. When he says blah, 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 I was in a team. Cool. What part were you in the team? What was your title? What was your role? What did you do? Tell me about the technology. How did you come to these discoveries? Drill down, drill down, drill down, until you either get comfortable or you go, you were making a coffee, weren't you? Now, the thing about precision questioning is you'll feel awkward. You'll feel quite uncomfortable. And you know why? Because you'll feel rude. Don't worry about that. There are ways to deal with that. And also, this is not a social engagement. It's an interview. Expectation is everything. So when I start my interviews, I always sit the candidate down and go, look, this interview is going to be a bit different. I'm an ex-cop from a long way back. I used to teach other policemen how to interview criminals. So I might have a slightly different interview technique. Don't be offended. It's just the way it is. We're both here to discover things. So I run these interviews a bit differently. I will ask you questions, and sometimes I will drill down and down and down and down, and you'll come under a bit of pressure. Don't worry about it. It's not because I don't trust you or I don't think you know your subject. I need to know how deep you go. Whereabouts do you fail? And I often try to ask questions until you fail. I'll also be very rude and cut you off in the middle of an answer, because it becomes really obvious to me you know this stuff. So I'll go to something else or go to a different level. So please don't be offended by that. And the opposite is true. This is not a conventional interview. Don't sit there and just respond to my questions. Get involved and you can ask questions, because you might say something in an interview that makes me think that you're not very good at your job. I promise I will tell you that in the interview, and we can discuss that and challenge that and go through that, because you might be able to bring me back around to why you are good at your job. So let's have a different interview. And then I kick my interview off from that. It sets the stage. It gives us permission to have an interview that's different and not rude. Let me be very clear about this. This technique not only will make you or allow you to delve deeper and find out a lot more substance about the candidates you're interviewing, to be more sure about who you're hiring and why you're hiring and what they're bringing to the party. More than that, it will radically transform your interview process and experience, both for you and for the candidate. But even more than that, I often break through barriers, deep barriers, that bring me back to a relationship that's honest with this person. And I'll give you 2 examples, but there have been many, many examples of people that come out of my interviews and go back to their agent and go, wow, I don't think I'm going to get that job, but that was worth doing. That was an interesting experience. And an agent has referred this back to me numerous times. I don't know what you're doing there, man, but your interviews seem to be a bit different. And that's because they're honest. And we don't get a lot of real raw honesty in our lives, let alone in the interview process. So let me give you 2 examples of how this can radically change your relationship with the people you may potentially hire. Here's the first one. So I had a candidate once that, after him telling me about all of his experience with project management, I had that little funny feeling. So I started precision questioning, and a little way down into precision questioning, he realized that he was caught. He actually didn't have any real experience in project management. Did he know what he was doing? Yeah, he did. Did he know all the intricacies and the way project management should work? Did he have the skills? Had he been trained in it? No, not at all. But he had an amazing aptitude and drive. He was glossing over his CV because he really wanted to get into project management. And we started to have a really honest discussion about what he wanted to do and why he was presenting himself in this way. And I gave him a job. I gave him a job because he had the aptitude. He lacked a few of the skills, but hire on aptitude, for God's sake. He also had the enthusiasm, the drive, and we entered into an honest relationship. I hired him on the basis that he had a month to prove himself, to get up to speed and show me that he could do what he did. The net result was, killed it. Absolutely killed it, because he had all the other attributes I needed. Now, in a normal interview, I just would have come out of the interview feeling a little uncomfortable about him as a candidate. Because we sort of almost fractured the whole thing open in the middle of the interview and got into a real conversation, I got a real employee, a good one. Now, the second one was a young girl that came to me as a senior in her role, a very experienced senior, and she was coming from a senior role, being interviewed for another senior role. After interviewing and a bit of precision questioning, I had to say to her, look, you're not a senior, I'm sorry, you've been working in a very narrow field, and you're really good. So you've obviously got the potential to grow into a fantastic senior, but you haven't. Because anywhere outside of that narrow focus that your company that you're working for at the moment has given you is junior level. So I can't offer you a senior position, I'm sorry. And we had a really good conversation, and we started talking about her career development and what she should look for, and off she went. Later that afternoon, I got a phone call from the agent saying she has asked him to ask me if I would consider her for a junior role. So with the agent's permission, I phoned her directly and said, why? Why do you want to drop down a level? And she said, because I want to be good at my job. Nobody's ever talked to me the way you've talked to me. Nobody's ever given me that sort of advice. I know that. I feel that. I know how I'm missing everywhere, and I want to change that. What better place to go than the person who's brave enough to point it out to me in an interview? In a normal interview process, both of these would have been glossed over. Both of them wouldn't have got the job. I would have missed out on really good staff. But more importantly, those staff would have missed out on opportunities as well. Honesty in an interview is really important, and honesty is it takes courage, and it takes you breaking the glass. But the core thing is, don't be polite, don't have a conversation, have an interview. Bring to your interview vulnerability on both sides.